Hello and welcome for another show of Starkstruck, where we talk about things that get us excited about technology in general, Ethereum in specific, and StarkNet in particular. Today, I'm joined by Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Henri. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yep, I'm doing just fine too.
Cool. And we're going to talk about Scott and what you're doing. So, Scott, currently you're working at Snapshot on Snapshot X. Is that an accurate description? What is you're doing exactly?
That is exactly what I'm doing. So, for those who don't know, Snapshot is I'd say a voting tool for DAOs. If you've ever voted on any DAOs, there's, I'd say, a 90% probability that you use Snapshot without even knowing it. And what I'm building is what I like to call Snapshot 2.0, which is basically the newer version of Snapshot, which should be live, I don't know, sometimes in 2023, fingers crossed, which basically uses StarkNet to do all the computation and all the logic of bookkeeping, but still publishes results on L1 so that DAOs that are already living on L1 can use Snapshot X to do their voting system.
In a verifiable manner. Ah, nice. So Snapshot X is Snapshot 2.0. I like to call it Snapshot with teeth, in the sense that it can do something when Snapshot currently is mostly off chain, right? I mean, like Snapshot, it's hard to take an output of a Snapshot vote and enforce it on chain in a trustless manner.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of I wouldn't say problems, but okay, the idea is like we wanted to build, I wasn't here at the beginning, but the team wanted to build a voting solution for DAOs because governance and voting was a real issue back in the days. And so the thing is, building directly on layer one was just too expensive, as you already know. But back then, layer twos weren't really a thing. So there was no real other solution than to do this off chain. So of course, Snapshot decided to go off chain, but we still try to be as transparent as possible. We publish everything on IPFS. And so technically, if we were to, I don't know, do some censorship or stuff like this, users can still like go on Twitter and say, hey, I have a proof that Snapshot Labs censored me. That's what people can do. So obviously, we are not incentivized to act maliciously. Because we know that if we do this, we'll have like a social cost to it.
No, definitely. And what I meant, like, I didn't mean this in like in the sense that, oh, it's not on chain, it doesn't matter. I think there's a lot of things you can put on chain, but there's still a lot of things that you cannot, and that's fine. And Snapshot may not be on chain, but like, how many users do you guys have?
To be completely honest, I'm not going to answer this question, not because, I mean, we have the data, but I don't personally know the data, but I know it's a lot. I should have looked this before coming here, but...
It's fine. What I mean is like I can't think of anybody who's ever looked into DAO governance who don't know what Snapshot is. You guys are clearly the market leader in what you're doing. It's a tool that is extremely widely used in the industry. I mean, like by all measures, you're like a real success. And your app is not used for any kind of speculation or whatever. It's used for actual governance. You guys have actual users with an actual use case.
I totally agree. Except from one little detail is that we also have airdrop farmers who are doing like fake DAOs in which they're the only ones to vote just in case one day we do the Snapshot token. Which is a bit weird, but okay. But yeah, most of our users are completely normal users. And as I said in the beginning, like if you've already voted, there's like a 90% chance you've used Snapshot.
That's pretty
cool. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to ask to the team if we have numbers, because we do have numbers, but I just don't know them.
Yeah, that's fine. Please go.
Maybe I'll have an answer.
Perfect. And also, let's take this opportunity to like maybe backtrack a little bit. So you mentioned like you were not there at the beginning of Snapshot X. Where were you, Scott? Like, what's your background? What did you do before joining Snapshot? Like, for example, let's start
Whoa.
easy. What did you study? Did you study?
Okay, so I live in France. I'm French. I live in France, and so in France, once you're 18, you have like this baccalaureate, which is like a French national diploma. And so I got this, and I decided to take 1 year off to actually try and become a professional professional gamer, like video gamer. I soon realized that I wasn't talented enough, even though I was
Which
like
game?
the best one in. I used to play a lot of League of Legends. Before that, I
Mm-hmm.
used to play StarCraft 2, and before that, World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like competitive, but like I'm the best in my group of friends and in my high school, etc. But it doesn't mean that I'm the best like in the world, and that's the real issue. You really need to
Yeah,
be
and
like
like
in the top 0.0001% to be a professional.
yeah, professional sports is often the same way. I had a former coworker in a past life when I was working in a totally different industry. He was older than me. He told me that he loved football, and when he was in middle school, he was thinking about going the professional soccer player route, but it's harsh. Like you get so many. It's really hard to make a living out of it, and then there's a lot of uncertainty about your future, and to some extent, you're like there's a lot of like you really have to be the best, and even if you are, there's always a lot of uncertainties. So it's not an easy thing. So you try to do that after your baccalaureate, and you realize that this wasn't for you.
Exactly. So I spent one year doing this, and I throughout the year actually I switched from actually trying to play to organizing video games. So
Hmm.
I organized like a couple of big tournaments, like the biggest in France. I joined like it's called Lyon eSport, and was like a big community of video gamers. Anyways, so I did this for a year, and then I decided to go back to study. I've always been a nerd, so I went directly to studying mathematics. I was actually doing like a double diploma, which was mathematics and economics. And I did 2 years of this. And then I decided I wanted to go to Paris. So I wanted to do my third year in Paris. So I went to UPMC, which is like a university in Paris. And there I actually met a friend there, and we decided. So I was already into cryptocurrencies. I was just like lurking on
How were
Reddit,
you
stuff like
in?
this.
How were
Oh,
you like
okay.
into cryptocurrencies?
Okay, so my first exposure to cryptocurrencies was my uncle actually. 2013. He's like, it's November 2013, and he's like, "Oh man, have you heard about Bitcoin?" I'm like, I'm a nerd. I'm like 17. I'm like, "No, what's this?" And he starts rambling about what's Bitcoin and why we need a currency like this, etc. I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. And so
Usually
I
it's the
kind
other way
of,
around. Usually it's the younger one saying, "Hey, there's this cool stuff," and then the uncle saying,
yeah,
"No, it won't work because it's not the
yeah,
real economy." Blah
exactly.
blah blah.
Thing
And so
is,
in
like,
your case,
my
what's the
uncle
opposite?
is my uncle is like a pure Chad, you know. He's like lurking on forums, and like he's like a professional. Oh, actually, he's a professional poker player, so that's why he learned about Bitcoin.
What's his name?
Anyways, no. He would no. Sorry, he's not a professional poker player.
No,
He
no, but
does
what's his
this
name?
and earns. Oh, his name is Paul, but he's not
Ah,
like
bon bah
he's
dédicace
not
à
known at
Paul.
all.
Bravo.
Yeah,
Non,
dédicace à
mais si
Paul if he
jamais il nous
listens to
écoute,
it. Yeah,
a small shout
and
out
so
to
he told me
Paul.
about Bitcoin. I remember this sentence. He was like, it was like $40. And he told me, but like maybe one day it'll be like, I don't know, $2,000. And I was like, whoa, that'd be crazy. I remember this feeling that I had was like, that would be super crazy. Like I couldn't even imagine.
It would. I
Anyways,
remember having the
yeah.
exact same thought about Bitcoin being like, oh, but can you imagine if it goes back above 1,000? I was like, oh, wow, that'd be
Crazy.
crazy, man. And it was.
It was. And so I got introduced like this. I spent like a month like researching Bitcoin, etc., going on the Bitcoin talk, etc. And then I went back. I remember having like those conversations with people in my high school. I was like, this crazy guy talking about like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies when other people like, hey, let's like chill and have a smoke or go to party, and I was like, no guys, you don't really understand, it's like a revolution.
Yeah, it can be hard when
Yeah.
when there's something you really enjoy and people don't necessarily click around you.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting and it was funny. And then I dropped it. No, so I remember actually it was near December, so price was spiking up, and I remember asking to my uncle and my dad to buy me like for my Christmas present. It was like half a Bitcoin or a quarter, I don't remember. And I kept it. I held it.
Nice.
And then 2014, 2015, I was busy like doing those as I said before, like a professional video gamer, etc. And it's only in 2016 where I was back to studying mathematics that I heard about Ethereum. It was post ICO. It was like, I think it was April 2016. And I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. So I was a big Reddit lurker. I spent like 2 months lurking on Reddit. I didn't have any money, so I was like, oh, there's no way I can buy it. And then
And
something
also, like post
crazy.
ICO, was there a market for ETH? I
Oh
like
yeah, for
post
sure.
ICO and before the
I mean,
launch of the
just post
market. How
ICO,
did
no, but
people?
no, it was launched. Like Ethereum was live. 2016, Ethereum was already live for like 2 months, if I'm not mistaken.
In 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What I meant, yeah, okay. So after the network was launched, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then what happened? Oh yeah, and then the DAO happened. The DAO happened, and I was like a big lurker on Reddit, and I saw the price like dividing by 2, and I was like, oh, that's where I come in, because I was so enthusiastic about Ethereum. I was like, like people were fudding a lot on Reddit, I remember, and I was like, bro, this is like the best time to invest because people are super fudding. And I just understood the whole idea that was behind it. I was like, that's like a damn revolution. And so I was really passionate
What
about
what
it. And so,
what
yeah,
made you think this was a revolution? What made Ethereum stand out compared to other,
I mean,
compared to like Bitcoin or other systems to you?
well, okay, Bitcoin is nice, but I'm kind of, I think we can call me like a Ethereum maxi. Like no hard feeling towards Bitcoin, but for me it was like a step that was necessary. But now I don't really understand why it's still used. I mean, I have good friends that are like Bitcoin maxed, and we have those amazing conversations where we talk about proof of work, blah blah blah. But really, like in terms of functionality, when I heard about Ethereum, I was like, okay, so that's the next big thing, right? You can do whatever you want. Like having a Turing complete machine makes it so you can do whatever you want, right?
So
Like the scripting
programmability is
language in
what?
Bitcoin. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like scripting is nice in Bitcoin, but it's just, you can't do everything you want. And now in Ethereum, I was like reading articles and I was like reading about like Vitalik talking and so, like listening Vitalik talking. And I was like, oh, okay. So, okay, you can do vote. Okay, you can do oracles. Okay, you can do like whatever you want. Okay, you can do DeFi wasn't a thing, but there was already people trying to do decentralized exchanges, right? Because you could just do like matching between orders. That was already a thing back in the days. I was like, that's super duper cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and
But you
that's
still
what
couldn't
got
get
me
access
into
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
But you still
Yeah, I
couldn't get
couldn't get
access to it. You were
access to
still a
it. So
student.
so I worked during the summertime and I managed to buy some. And I was really happy, and the price still went down, and I was like, okay, I'll hodl, it's all right. And
Was
then
it the time you worked at? No. Okay. I know
so
you did
that was
this.
when I was studying. I was still
Okay.
studying, right? That was like 2016. I was still studying,
Mm-hmm.
and fast forward to next year, so that's when I'm going to Paris actually. And I have this friend from high school to whom I talked about Bitcoin. And he says, oh, hey, we haven't talked for like 3 years, but now I remember you said something about Bitcoin. And I have this other friend who's like big into something called Ethereum. I don't know if you've heard about it. And I'm like, bro, like Ethereum is
Oh.
the shit. I like it so much. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, this guy is my friend. And he's like one of the early, Ethereum adopter, etc. He participated to the ICO, etc. I was like, okay, cool. And he was a programmer, like a developer. and I wasn't. And I had this. Okay. So in 2017, the markets weren't efficient at all. I'm not saying they are right now, but back in the days they were even less. And so I remember seeing like those big arbitrage opportunities, and I was like, if only I could code, you know. And so I meet this guy who actually knows how to code, who knows about crypto, and we're like a group of 3 nerds, and we're like, okay, let's try to do arbitrage because it's so easy. It's like no risk, and we can make money, you know. And so we did this for 6 months. We did arbitrage. It worked fine, just fine. We were making money, not crazy
Which
amounts of
platform
money.
did you use
Oh,
at the time?
so there was like, I don't know, 10 different exchanges: OKX, Binance,
Right.
KuCoin, Nanex for Nano. Which other ones? Huobi, HitBTC, I think was our that. Yes. Anyways, like there was 10 of them. I know 7 of them, but I'm missing 3 or something. And that's it. And then one day we just stopped making any profit. And this is the day I understood that arbitrage was a winner takes all model, right? If you're like half a millisecond behind someone else, he'll just take everything and you won't get anything. So it's a winner takes all model, right?
And
You
it's
don't
a
get
really like
any slice of the cake. Yeah.
and trading
It's
is
what?
very competitive, and automatic trading is even more competitive. And like
Oh yeah.
there are only these models you can think of, but in practice, there's always a difference between what the backtesting you're doing and what's happening in real life.
For sure.
And then there's a lot of maintenance to do. It's really nice when you're a student, but it's I think it's a really really competitive industry.
It is. And the thing is, like, we had been doing this for 6 months, and when we saw that we weren't making any profits anymore, we were like, okay, there's 2 paths from here. Either we like double down on this and we try to find where we can like find some optimization, etc., or we just let it go and focus on other stuff. And we all decided to focus on other stuff because we had spent 6 months working on this, and we're like, okay, making money is fun, but actually that's not what I want to do with my life, you know? Like, I have a life, and making money is like one way to do stuff in my life, but it's not the purpose of my life.
It's a mean and not an end.
Exactly. And so we decided to let this go. And actually, I decided to drop out from university and go to another university to start learning coding, programming, software engineer.
So this
And so
gave
I
you
went
a
to this.
taste of programming and how you can like leverage the power of computer to implement stuff you have in your brain.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so in this school, like I immediately fell in love with programming, and I started this school in 2018, and I've been like so passionate about programming. Like I think I found like what I really like to do with my time. And I've been programming ever since. And so I've been also into cryptocurrencies. So I did my first internship, obviously, into crypto. I worked at Sigma Prime, which is the company behind Lighthouse, which is like an Ethereum 2 client written in Rust. Then I did my second internship at Parity, working on Substrate, which is like a framework written in Rust for blockchains also. And then I spent a year doing like an apprenticeship in Paris at Ledger, which is a hardware company. They do like small USB keys that are here to secure your crypto.
It's really cool. You saw a
And
lot of
then,
pieces of
yeah,
infrastructure.
and then I went to Snapshot, and here I am now talking to you.
Amazing. I know in the meanwhile, so it was not all work. You were pretty involved in the community also, and specifically you were very involved with the organization of conferences and specifically with at CC, right?
Yeah, for sure. So what happened in 2016 is there was this website called ethereum-friends.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think, originally written by Simon Pollereau, who's like a French lawyer. And so I sent him an email. I was like, hey, I like your website, and I was wondering if I could like write a couple of articles on it. And he said, sure. So that's how I started. I wrote like an article for like it was a Le Petit Glossaire du Crypto Trader. So it's like the glossary for like The
A
glossary
small
for the
lexicon
crypto
for
trader.
crypto trader.
Exactly, lexicon. Thanks. So it was like a bunch of like what's going short, what's going long, and what's a whale, what's a sell wall, what's stuff like this. I did this, and then I did a couple of different articles. The one regarding, I don't know, Decentraland, for example. Prior to the ISO, I was big on Decentraland, so I did like a pretty long article about Decentraland and other stuff like this. So I was writing on Ethereum Friends, and then Ethereum Friends, there was this
How many
group
people
called
were?
Assets. Ethereum
How
Friends
many
was
people
one guy
were?
was.
Oh, it was
Go
just Simon.
To be honest, there was no. There was Jérôme de Tichet who would write also, and then there was a couple, like 2 or 3 different guys who would sometimes write a little bit. But even in 2017 when I got there, like they wouldn't write very often. They would write stuff in 2016, but in 2017 they were not writing anymore. And then what happened is like Asset, which was like the, how do you say, organization behind it was like a nonprofit organization behind Ethereum Friends. They decided to do ETHCC, and of course, since I was close to Asset, I wanted to participate, and so it was pretty like organic. Like I decided to handle the volunteers and other stuff, and then I just took it from there. First edition, I managed volunteers. Second edition also, and then I took the tickets also.
It plays nice with the experience you had organizing gaming from conferences before, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I already had experience managing
having a bunch of sweaty nerds coming to a single place and talking about stuff they're passionate.
And to be honest, I really like it.
Can we make a very small pause? I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yep.
Sorry, we were cut. So you were saying you really enjoyed organizing at CC.
Yeah. I really enjoy those kind of events. I've got to say, I like all ECC events, but the first ones were even more, I don't know, maybe it's like I'm being nostalgic right now, but the first ones were organized in Le CNAM.
I remember 2018.
So yeah, exactly. It felt so roots, you know. It felt so.
It was really funny because the venue was both amazing, like the buildings outside were really beautiful, and the rooms were at the same time very decrepit. The auditoriums were really old and toilets were really dirty.
And
but you really could feel like the community getting together.
And getting around the venue was also really, really hard because we had very poor signs, like, you know, like, I don't know how to say, signalétique. Anyways, it was really hard to get through the venue, etc. And people could like, we didn't think about having like security. Basically, there was a misunderstanding between us and the CNAM, and they told us they'd have a security guard, but they didn't actually. So we didn't have any security guard at all. And so people could just come in and listen to the talks, but we had people that bought tickets. So people were like complaining, hey, I bought my ticket, but actually like anyone can come in. And we're like, yeah, happens. It was lots of stuff like that. But I don't know. To me, it felt really like roots and genuine. I think genuine is the correct term. And yeah, I really liked it. And we were also like 700 or 800, I think. So
there were a lot of people. It's already like, I remember it was the first Ethereum conference I went, and I remember thinking that it was quite big. And there were people from all over the world, right?
Yeah. So what's funny is like 800 people now sounds small, like compared to, okay, last ECC was almost 2,000, and DEF CON, I don't know the numbers. I think it's 4,000. So 800 people is much smaller, right? But at the same time, when you're with 800 nerds around you, you feel like that's a lot of people, right? And we had like 4 different rooms, so yeah.
Yeah, you can take it another way. Like if you compare it to the market cap, the market cap is 10 or 15 times bigger, and the attendance is not 10 or 15 times bigger. True. It was a bigger number of attendance. That's a dumb metric. Number of attendance.
Yeah, it is. Thing is, like, today we don't grow. We don't want to. Like we could go for 15,000 people coming and like rent the Palais de Congrès or stuff like this. But then I feel like we'd lose what makes it ECC, right? It's for the community, by the community, and we want to make sure we stay, like, we want to make sure the social interactions stay meaningful. And we feel like we'd lose it if we were to be like 15,000 or 20,000.
Yeah, for sure. It would be a different kind of event. I'll say also that, I mean, CNAM was nice, but Palais de la Mutualité, where current SCC is a really nice venue. And it's a venue with history. I mean, like, I don't know how did this choice came to go into Palais de la Mutualité, but the concept of mutuality in France is like, it's a whole thing about, like, I think the Palais de la Mutualité, and maybe I'm wrong, okay, so you guys will need to check if I'm saying something stupid, but the Palais de la Mutualité is something that was founded by La Mutualité Française, which is a corporation or an association, an NGO of mutual insurances in France. And mutual insurances in France are essentially insurance companies, except they're not companies, they're managed by insurees. So everyone is both insuree and a shareholder, and people basically, instead of paying surpluses to shareholders, they're managing their risk together, sharing the risk, sharing the upside. Obviously, it's not something that is all rosy and works perfectly. There's a lot to be said about the management of these sort of corporation, but the idea of mutuality, the idea and the concept around let's organize together to provide a service for everyone, to me resonates a lot with the mission of Ethereum and the broader ecosystem. I don't know. Does that make sense? Is this totally random
does.
or not at all?
Yeah, it does. Actually, Maison de la Mutualité has always had like this. How can I say this? Political leaning, like a lot of left. Is it? Can we say this in English? By the way, left and right,
Leftist.
like social and democrats.
Leftist.
Yeah, leftist.
Yeah.
It's where leftists do stuff. There's always been like stuff for women or for homeless people or for generally what's considered left. Parti Socialiste, le PS, Parti Socialiste, had lots of meeting there. Lionel Jospin, Ségolène Royal, stuff like this. So it's historically it's something that was more leaned towards the left, and so there's a lot of I don't know. You might like it, you might not like it, but there's a lot of good ideas that come with this. Also, I'm not particularly fond of the left or the right or blah blah blah. I'm not into politics, but like, there are ideas that we share with the left in the Ethereum community as a whole, like stuff like inclusion, etc. These are usually left,
having public goods,
ideas,
neutral infrastructure, and having things that are mutual. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I think, like, aside from picking a political side, I think the idea of not having everyone for itself, but having people get together to build something bigger than the sum of each participation is, to me, one of the core tenets of mutuality, and organizing SCC there, to me, made a lot of sense, and I think it was quite powerful. And it's also really nice because, like, a lot of time we feel like we're reinventing the wheel and we're reinventing stuff that we're inventing stuff that has never been done before. And the truth is that most of the things that work on the blockchain are digital replicas that work much better and offer a lot new properties of things that have been around for a long time. And the concept of mutuality and building something bigger together is something that has been around for like longer than Ethereum and Bitcoin. Obviously, I think the roots of this are like 100 or 200 years old.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought it was nice to organize it here.
I'm not sure. I mean, we're still looking at where exactly we'll do ETCC next year. We don't know yet.
I'm sure you'll find a nice spot.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm not saying we won't be doing it at Maison de la Mutualité, but there are some plans, and I'm not saying that it will be in the Maison de la Mutualité. I'm not saying it will not be there, but we'll have to see. But
How
yeah,
many people
anyways,
are
the last
involved?
3 years were fun.
How many people are involved to throw a 800? No, wait, 800, 1,500 people conference? How many people get to
Last
ETC?
ECC was 2,000 basically.
2,000. How many people
Yeah.
are involved in the organization of this?
So
Okay, let's split between the people organizing and managing the core
yeah, I was
team and
just
then all the
trying to, yeah.
volunteers.
So I'd say the core team is about so it's a little bit hard to explain. Like the core team that works on it for like months and months is about 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 people. But actually, it's only one person. We have Bettina, who's like in charge of ECC, and she's like paid full time for ECC.
Mm.
Then I work from like January to July or December to July. And I usually do like, I don't know, 10 hours per week or something like this. And then there are other people, like, for example, we pay people for the catering, but we need to talk with them, we need to visit with them, etc. So they come even before like the day. This year, we also worked a lot with Unlock Protocol. So they worked a lot for the ticketing system. We have someone for our website, Guillaume. We have someone to help organizing stuff who is Brice. And then we have, of course, other people from Assets, which is called Ethereum France now. 2 or 3 people who help with different stuff, with selecting candidates, selecting talks, stuff like this.
There's basically like one full-time person and all the rest of you are volunteers organizing this.
So I'm not a volunteer because I get paid.
You're
for my
part-time.
work.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm part-time. Brice is paid. Guillaume is paid. So yeah.
Still,
But
that's
other
pretty
than that,
impressive.
like once over there, for example, I had to manage 110 volunteers this year, and they're all volunteers and they don't get paid. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still like I'm really impressed. This is a very big event, and I'm sure you guys are used to running the show now, so it feels easier. But to me, that's a daunting task. I'm really impressed.
It's still really intense. Like it's still intense, and there's still a lot of stress because, like, every event comes with its own problems and issues, and there's always stuff to fix. Always, always, always.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you've prepared for it, there's always stuff that go wrong.
Super cool. Nice. So yeah, I see like you were really involved in the Ethereum community and you did a lot of different internships and eventually you landed at Snapshot, taking back a step back from your volunteer engagement or part-time job after the year. And going back to your what you're doing right now at Snapshot, I'm curious, how did you get in touch with the people at Snapshot? Because like it's not like they're easily identified. And, like there's not a lot of you, and I think the founder is on the other side of the world, right?
Yeah, it's Snapshot is a funny company because, by the way, I asked for the numbers and I just got the reply.
Oh, so the number of people using Snapshot.
Yeah, we have. For example, in September we had 600,000 votes. We've had 7.5 unique voters. So 7.5. Oh, 7.5 million. 7.5 million unique votes.
Wait. Wait. So 7.5 unique votes and 600,000 unique voters?
600,000 votes in September and 337K unique voters in September.
337. Okay, so about 2 votes per voter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow, that's massive. In September. Wow, that's massive.
It's
Congrats.
like I don't want to brag about it because like that's not what we do.
You should take a victory lap.
I mean, I'm not the one who built Snapshot. I'm working on Snapshot X. So if we get those numbers in 2 years, then I'll be able to brag about it.
You get your share of the brag, Scott. Take it.
What I mean is like I'm very proud that Snapshot is achieving this, and like not a lot of people realize it, but we're one of the most used tools in the whole Ethereum ecosystem. And so that's really cool. Yeah.
Congrats on that. Cool. So you were saying that for all these nice stats, Snapshot is a funny company.
Yeah, it's a funny company because it's really, really decentralized. I'm in Belgium. We have one guy in Germany, one guy in Thailand, one guy in Cambodia, one guy in the US, one guy in India. And we have
must be a nightmare to sync. Time zones.
And we have like a grand total of, if I'm not mistaken, 6 full-time employees and maybe 6 other half-time employees. And that's it for Snapshot.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. It's
really, really small companies compared to the amount of traffic we have.
Yeah,
and to a point,
I was going to say responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you guys are a core tool of, I don't know, the Aave governance, for example, to say just one mastodon of this.
Yeah, Uniswap, Aave. Yeah, anyway. What happens for those big DAOs? They basically use Snapshot as like a tool to gauge whether a proposal makes sense or not. So, for example, say Aave is going to decide to, I don't know, random proposal, send 1 million tokens to whatever,
Henri.
Ukraine DAO. Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
If they're going to do this proposal, first depending on the proposal, but they will go to Snapshot and basically ask people, hey guys, is this a good proposal or not? Would you vote yes or no? And then people can vote, and if they feel like there's enough people that would vote yes, then they actually do like the on-chain proposal. So they actually use the off-chain Snapshot system to like do a temperature check to see if people like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really smart usage of it.
Yeah, because basically it's like non-binding voting, non-binding proposals, basically.
Very nice. And it's non-binding and it's frictionless for users because it's free.
Exactly. So it gets the conversation started. But for smaller DAOs that don't need like this 100%, 110% verifiability on chain, blah, 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 then they just use Snapshot as their voting tool.
So people vote on Snapshot and then the votes are implemented through multi-sig, right?
Yeah, so there are a couple of different ways of doing this. There's SafeSnap, but most people that I know of, they don't yet use SafeSnap. And the idea is like you have a multi-sig, usually like knows it's safe. You have your treasury on this. You do proposal number 1. Should we send 1 ETH to Henri? Henri's going to vote yes, probably. And if it passes, then we, as the signer of the multi-sig, sign a transaction that says, hey, let's send 1 ETH to Henri. This is not ideal because there's nothing that actually binds the multi-sig to the proposal. And that's what we're going to fix with Snapshot X. Meaning with Snapshot X will be the proposal will have a transaction associated with it. And if the proposal passes, then trustlessly, without nobody being able to interfere with it, the transaction will execute.
Wait, so let's track back a bit, because when you're saying that, so people will vote and then Snapshot will execute it, this means that on your UI, on your front end, people will vote with their key, so they will send you a signature, and then you guys will collect all these signatures, count them, and then say, okay, this was the result, we decide to do this, right? And you have authority to vote on the multi-sig. No? For currently what it is, right? Not for Snapshot.
For what it is now, exactly. When people vote, there's like some technical details, but basically when people vote, they post their vote in IPFS and blah, blah, blah. And so they have a proof that they voted. And we just basically count everything. And once the proposal period has ended, we just count up yes, no, quorum, and we check if it passed or not. And then
so essentially this means this means that people trust you with counting and taking the votes into account, right? If there's a big majority of yes.
Everything is verifiable because everything is stored on IPFS. So technically, even if we were to miscount, people could count it again and prove that we miscounted.
But you still get to sign, and if you want to ignore it, you could. Like there was actually, it's funny because the whole FTX drama happened last week. I don't know when we're going to release the podcast. I shouldn't say that now because we may still get a lot more drama in the coming days. So I'm going to say the beginning of the FTX drama happened last week, and people were worried about the access FTX has to oracles, stable coins, or wrapped asset. This is the kind of stuff where if Snapshot were to go, and I'm not saying you will, right? I'm just making a point that if you were going bankrupt, this could mean that you could say, yes, this proposal to send us 1,000 ETH was approved. Please send it to our wallet. Technically, this is something that you guys could do, right?
Exactly. We could, definitely.
So why not use
but if we were to do
like
this, we'd lose all credibility, so no one would use.
Of course,
Snapshot.
the point is once you've lost it, but once you've lost it already, right? Once the bridge is starting to burn, you might as well take everything you can with it.
And that's why I'm personally working on Snapshot X.
But so I'm curious, like, why couldn't you get all these signatures and verify them on Ethereum? Like, people do this for NFT mints. I can sign something for you to mint my NFT, and then you send a transaction to my contract, and you can verify my signature. Why can't you do that for this kind of stuff?
Okay, so the problem on Ethereum is that it's just too expensive, right? We can't have people vote if the vote is like $2. Sure, Henry can pay $2 per vote, but some people can't.
Now, I'm much more of a harangue or a sardine than a whale, so $2 is pretty much prohibitive. Unless it's for me to receive $1,000, I'm not going to vote.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just kidding. But what I mean is, like, even for people who can afford, we don't, like, voting should be frictionless, right? You shouldn't have to pay in order to vote. This doesn't make any sense, right? It should be free for everyone.
Okay, so the point is that voting would be very expensive for verifying your transaction. It would add friction in the UX, but also it would cost a lot of money because verifying a signature is not that much. And you're right. Like I don't know how much is verifying a signature right now on Ethereum, but let's say it's even on the order of dollars. With the numbers you mentioned earlier, like 600,000 votes. In September, I doubt people would spend $600,000 just to vote in September.
That's for sure, and you can already see this because Compound, for example, has on-chain governance, and the people at MakerDAO have their own governance too. And like, if you have a look at their numbers, they have way less voters, and it's just normal. People don't want to have to pay in order to vote unless they have big reasons to participate in this vote, right?
Okay, makes sense.
And so that's why basically we're going to use StarkNet to do this, because the idea is, like, if we can get 10x or 100x improvements on the cost of this, then all of a sudden a vote is maybe 1 cent, 2 cents. And the idea is that for 1 cent or 2 cents, there are two possibilities. Either the user really wants to participate and just participate on his own, and he can pay like 1 cent or 2 cents. We think that 1 cent or 2 cents is an acceptable target. And if he doesn't want to, which will be the case for, I think, 90% of the DAO can just subsidize the votes, right? Because most DAOs will have maybe 100 to 1,000 voters. So that would be $1 to $10, which sounds fair enough, right? It's just, you could see this for the DAO as like an expense for the DAO to keep on running.
I see what you mean. So what you're saying is that
DAOs can subsidize voters, basically. It's not paying voters to vote. It's just subsidizing the fees associated with the voter.
Yeah, it's akin to you don't get charged for the paper you put in the ballot when you go vote.
That is
and the DAO would do the same thing. Okay, makes sense. So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that with Snapshot X, the goal would be to these signatures that you can't verify on Ethereum because it's too expensive. You can verify them in a script that is provable. So instead of running, say, a Python script that will aggregate all these signatures and give an output, and you have to trust it because there's no way for you to know that Ethereum has to trust that you gave the right output of this Python script because Ethereum has no way to understand Python script. You could run this script of aggregation of transactions in a provable program. So if you're developing on StarkNet, it will be in Cairo. And the output of that program, meaning this many votes say yes, this many votes say no. Now Ethereum is able to understand it trustlessly because associated with them, then the result will be a proof, and Ethereum will be able to say, okay, that's what is coming out of this vote counting program. And now Ethereum is able to trust the program without having to trust a human. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that is exactly it. Now, one thing that I would point out, though, is what's expensive on Ethereum is not verifying the signature. And to be totally honest, it's actually, I wouldn't say cheaper, but relatively cheaper, meaning like verifying signatures on Ethereum is something it's called the EC recover, and it's like a built-in function, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's a precompile. Whereas on StarkNet, we basically use a different curve. And so using the Ketchak curve to verify the Ethereum signatures is a little bit more expensive than the native signatures on StarkNet.
Okay, so two questions.
It's still cheaper.
What is expensive on Ethereum then?
So what would be expensive on Ethereum would be like all the bookkeeping. So storing votes, storing proposals, stuff like this. Computation would be still expensive, but not so much expensive. Now,
so where does the cost saving come?
I mean, it comes from everywhere, but storage is less expensive. I mean, storage is still expensive, but a little bit less expensive, and computation is less expensive on StarkNet. So we're overall making improvements everywhere.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So, I mean, and you guys are developing something on StarkNet, but what's really interesting is that you're abstracting the fee, but you're also abstracting StarkNet away, right? Because people will be able to use their MetaMask and their ETH key to do stuff on StarkNet, which is pretty cool also. I mean, I want people to use StarkNet, but I think that using the application as a backend and making it transparent to user is next level. This is how we...
Yeah. Basically, the way we frame it is like Snapshot X powered by StarkNet. Meaning there is StarkNet under the hood, but if you don't want to create an account or if you don't want to transfer your funds to StarkNet, it's all right. Don't mind. Like, you don't need to think about it. And actually, when I first heard about Snapshot X, the first question I asked to the Snapshot team was, but wait, people will never transfer their funds from L1 to StarkNet. Like, as a user, there's no way I want to transfer my funds to StarkNet, cast a vote, and then transfer back. Like, that's just not manageable. And
I mean, you wouldn't need to transfer your funds to StarkNet, right? You just need to have, you guys are using storage proof, right? So you're
exactly. That's StarkNet. What I was low-key introducing this.
Sorry about that.
I was going to blow everyone's mind with storage proof.
Sorry, I stole your thunder. Let's roll back a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
You ruined everything.
Like, people won't transfer your funds. How will they do? What will they do?
Oh, wait, Henry, I have a solution for that.
Oh, yes.
So basically, there's this thing called storage proofs. When we frame it this way, it sounds like a GigaChat idea, etc. But in reality, it's quite simple. The idea is like you can verify on StarkNet or on any layer 2, to be honest. You can verify the state of L1. Meaning, for example, if I have 1,000 Scott token on L1, then on the layer 2, using storage proofs, which I invite everyone to look up on the internet, what's a storage proof? Maybe they'll find like the Fossil GitHub repo, stuff like this. The idea is like basically you at a regular interval you send basically the root of the Ethereum state via message to the layer 2. And on layer 2, when you want to prove that you own 1,000 tokens of Scott tokens, for example, You basically send the transaction and say, hey, I have 1,000 token, and here's the proof. And you provide her like a Merkle proof that will be checked against the route that was sent via the L1, L2 messaging contract. Basically, this is all technical, but what this allows you to do is to prove that you have 1,000 tokens on layer 1 without moving them. And so this allows layer 2 to be like to know what your balance is on layer 1. And so, for example, for Snapshot X, this allows us to make you vote with your L1 balance without you needing to move your balance. And that's really, really cool and really useful.
Yeah, and the next level with that is that what I want to say is that you don't need to move funds, but even for Snapshot X, you don't even need a StarkNet account to leverage the power of StarkNet,
exactly.
Right? I mean, like, because StarkNet accounts are different from Ethereum private keys. So you would need, like, if you want to do actions on StarkNet, you need to create an account on StarkNet. You need to deploy an account contract. But if you want to use Snapshot X, you don't even have to do that. Snapshot X, the backend, can already interpret your Ethereum key signature and map it to how many voting power you have, right? That's pretty cool.
That is exactly it. And that's exactly why we used source proofs, because, like, no offense Argent X, no offense MetaMask, but we didn't want our users to need to install another plugin, keep another secret phrase or seed somewhere, etc. Our users are already voting using their MetaMask key and just signing a message. And we wanted the experience to stay the same, regardless of whether they're using Snapshot or Snapshot X.
And, I think it really makes a lot of sense, in the sense that, I mean, it makes sense to differentiate between people who are in an ecosystem and they don't necessarily want to go elsewhere, and people who are willing to go elsewhere and try new things. I know for some application, going on StarkNet will be necessary, and that's fine. It's new usage, new stuff we're trying. And to a large extent, you've seen that on other chains before, right? You have to create a new account to go on, I don't know, Gnosis, Solana, Tezos. You need to create new accounts for all of these chains and try these new stuff. We haven't seen yet Ethereum L1 applications using other networks as an extension to what they do. I mean, like, essentially, if you're an L1 application and you want to go to an L2 or to a sidechain, you will basically replicate your application there, but it's going to be to do the same thing, just with a different liquidity pool in another environment with another key. But I'm not aware of protocols where you can do something on L1 and something different on L2, where you extend the protocol, basically. And I'm not even aware of things, I mean, I'm aware of Snapshot X, obviously, where you have something on L1 and you're leveraging L2, but you're still using it on L1. And I think it's really, I don't know, to me, this is really cool to see application extending their capacity thanks to these layer 2s, even if people stay in the same ecosystem.
Yeah. What I really like is, like, the ability to do all of this without the end user even knowing what's going on behind the curtains, right? Like, the end goal of all of this is to have a single user just click on the button vote, sign the message, and voila, that's it. But what he doesn't know is, like, behind the scene, there's like this meta transaction relayer that we're running, and the DAOs is subsidizing part of the fees, but we're using storage proofs for him to be able to vote with this. Like, he doesn't need to know anything. It's just like when you unlock your phone, there's a lot of stuff going on in there, but you have no idea, and it doesn't really matter.
I agree with you.
At Snapshot, we really think about UX. That's like the number one thing we think about is, okay, but what will the user see? What will the user feel? That's the end goal.
I think it makes sense. Abstracting away complexity is something that, like, it's something that has been very successful for Web 2, and it's definitely something we should be thinking about for Web 3. Not dumbing down and not sacrificing on security, but abstracting away security complexity. Mechanically, broadens the potential audience for your app. So that's like a really good way to get more mainstream adoption. And I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with.
Well, so am I. So am I.
Amazing. Well, Scott, we've been here for about an hour. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your time. It was great insights talking with you about all of this, what you guys are building, and all the things you've built in the past. I've really had fun talking with you. Anything we didn't mention you want to talk about?
Well, no, not that I think about. Nothing comes to my mind right now. So
perfect. All right.
yeah.
So, well, then again, thank you. Where should people go to learn more about Snapshot and Snapshot X?
That's a good question. For the
Where
Snapshot
should
X
people go
part,
to learn more about you?
okay, so for me, I think you can find me on Twitter, probably. It's P Scott, so PSCOTT.eth. That's me on Twitter. For Snapshot, I guess you can just look up Snapshot on the internet. For Snapshot X, we have some documentation that's still a work in progress, but it's at docs.snapshotx.xyz.
Nice. Any call to action for devs who want to get involved?
You can jump in on our Discord. You can create issues and pull requests on GitHub. We're all open. Everything we build is on GitHub. We don't hide anything. So yeah, if you want to interact with us, I'm sure you'll find a way.
Fantastic. Cool. Scott, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Henri, and see you next time. Yeah. See ya.
Cheers, mate.